Welcome to Enrich Your Life, where financial wisdom meets everyday life. Hosted by Richard Limegruber, a financial advisor with over 25 years of experience, this podcast brings you powerful insights to make smart choices and build your financial future. Get ready to dive into practical strategies to grow, protect, and shape your financial story, one podcast at a time.
Hello, and welcome to Enrich Your Life podcast. My name is Rich Limegruber, and I'm your host. And today we're going to be discussing something that can be very emotional to some. It can be very traumatizing to others. And for everyone else, it's going to be very surprising what we're going to be talking about today. We're living in a time where there's an increasing age population here in Westchester County and throughout our country. And we're known at our age as being in a sandwich generation. A sandwich generation means that not only are we taking care of our children and making sure that they get to school every day and doing the things they need to do, but we're also taking care of our parents. And one of the things that we've found is that as we're in this sandwich generation, where we have to choose on whether or not we're going to be going to work and taking care of our families or possibly not going to work and taking care of our parents. As some of you know, I volunteer for the executive leadership team with the Walk to End Alzheimer's here in Westchester County. The statistics of those who are affected by this horrible disease is scary in itself. My guest today is someone who knows all too well those statistics and what is happening behind the scenes with research and up-and-coming drugs being approved by the FDA to help slow the progress of Alzheimer's. Unfortunately, there's no cure yet, which is the ultimate goal of the Alzheimer's Association. David Sobel is the executive director for the Alzheimer's Association Hudson Valley chapter. The Alzheimer's Association is the second biggest provider of funding research, only behind the U.S. federal government and the NIH, or National Institute of Health. In 2024, the association committed a record $109 million in total annual research spending, including more than $76 million in grants for new scientific studies. They are investing more than $430 million in over 1,100 active projects across 56 countries, spanning 6 continents. Their funding supports a diverse research portfolio of research, from understanding disease mechanisms to developing interventions and improving care practices. With no further ado, I'd like to welcome David Sobel, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Rich. Pleasure to be here.
I feel like I have a celebrity with me because you have a lot going on.
Only in my own mind.
Only in your own mind. I think it's extremely important to talk about, and there's a lot to talk about, from people's whys to the support and to the research and all of the ways the amazing volunteers and those who donate help with the cause. So tell us a little bit about, David, what inspired you to transition and what did you do before the Alzheimer's Association?
Sure. Thanks for asking, Rich.
Yep.
I have been in nonprofit my entire career. So I've worked for organizations such as National Multiple Sclerosis Society, JCC Association, American Red Cross, and now for the last almost 9 years, I've been working for Alzheimer's Association Hudson Valley chapter. And it's really been a privilege and an honor to be in this arena. I've learned early on in my career that I could do what I love to do, but also I could help people. And so this was something that I've kind of committed my career to, which is helping people while at the same time, furthering my career.
Yeah, and obviously working with nonprofits is you have to have a little special something in your heart, right? So thank you for all that you're doing for those who are the caregivers, for those who are suffering with any kind of ailments out there that really depend on nonprofit organizations like the Alzheimer's Association. It's extremely important to have those organizations out there. So thank you very much for doing that. In 2025, it's estimated that 7.2 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's, and nearly 2/3 of them are women. Certain demographics, including Black and Hispanic Americans, are at a higher risk for Alzheimer's. In Westchester County here, 13.6 of Westchester County residents aged 65 have already been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I think there's a lot of confusion about what Alzheimer's is versus what dementia is. And I wanted to ask you if you can clarify for the listeners what's the difference and explain what Alzheimer's is.
Sure, absolutely. So Alzheimer's disease is a type of dementia. So the way to look at it is dementia is the umbrella. And so underneath that umbrella, there are many, many, many different types of diseases underneath there. And Alzheimer's disease is the most prolific, the highest incident. More than 70% of people have Alzheimer's as their type of dementia. There's also there's many other different types of dementia underneath that dementia umbrella.
Right. Okay. And so if one of our listeners is sitting here and thinking to themselves, like, does my loved one have a dementia issue or an Alzheimer's? What are some of the recommendations that somebody can do to actually start looking into the possibility of somebody being diagnosed with Alzheimer's?
Yeah, so for the first step, we always recommend for people to call our helpline. We have in Chicago, our home office is based in Chicago. So Hudson Valley chapter is one of 75 chapters throughout the country. And in Chicago, we have what we call the contact center. And so the contact center has many employees there, and they speak many, many different languages, and they are open 24/7, 365. So 1-800-272-3900. 1-800-272-3900. That's the first step for anyone. So you call that number, you talk to a master's level social worker on the other end of the line, and they can help you with that first step. And any question at any time. And the example I always give is Thanksgiving, and you're there with your whole family, and then 3 a.m, you're awake and you're thinking, okay, you know what? Grandma didn't really look right today at dinner. She sounded different. Something was different. I have questions. And it's 3 a.m, you can pick up the phone and call 1-800-272-3900, talk to somebody on the other end of the line, and then after you talk to them and you get all that information, they can also refer you to our care consultants that we have locally here in the Hudson Valley. So you can talk to people, you can set up a care consultation here in the Hudson Valley at one of our offices. So we have 2 offices. We have one that's right here in Westchester, that's in Purchase. And then we have our northern office is in Poughkeepsie. So you can set up an appointment in either one of our offices, or we can do a virtual meeting. We can talk on the phone. We can do a Zoom call, or we even meet in a coffee shop. But the important thing is to have that conversation so that you can get that care plan, because they can help you with that care plan. They can help you with referrals. We don't endorse anyone, but we certainly do help. Where do I find this? Where do I find that? And we want to make sure that we're here for people. That's the most important thing, is that we are here for people. All of our programs and services are free. We're not trying to sell anybody anything. We're just trying to help. And that's the way you start off, is by calling that contact center.
Me personally, I have recommended several clients to call up, and the feedback has been phenomenal, which is one of the reasons why I decided to join and volunteer for the organization, because it's very, very far and few between finding a resource that can help somebody who's not only stressed, but wondering what the rest of their life is going to look like.
Sure.
And that's not only for the person maybe diagnosed with it, but also the caregivers.
Absolutely.
So
we talked about that sandwich generation before.
Right.
Imagine how difficult that is, dealing with a young child while also dealing with an aging parent who perhaps has Alzheimer's. I talked to somebody on the phone yesterday who's both of her parents have Alzheimer's.
Oh my God, yeah.
So imagine what that is like as a caregiver, to be able to have your job, to have your kids, to have 2 aging parents with Alzheimer's. Where do you turn? To start with is you turn to us.
Knowing that we have a growing problem in Westchester County, especially among women, how does the Hudson Valley chapter's strategic planning and outreach efforts, what are you guys planning on doing to make sure that people are aware of what you guys are doing?
So we have our staff members, are broken up. I mentioned the care consultants before. So we have these wonderful care consultants who help people. Then we also have these community engagement staff members. So the community engagement staff members, they are going out into the community, and they are providing programs and services for people living with Alzheimer's, their families, their caregivers. So you might go to the local library. and you might see a program there, know the 10 warning signs of Alzheimer's. Or you might go to your local farmer's market or a street fair, and you might see people there at table. And so we only have 25 staff members in the Hudson Valley. So of course, we also have wonderful volunteers like yourself who are out there and who are helping in so many different ways. And so a couple of the different ways that you can volunteer, we have a community educator position. So there's a training involved for that. We ask people to do 12 trainings per year and to be out there and to do one of these programs. So instead of a staff member doing Know the 10 Warning Signs or Healthy Body, Healthy Brain, you might have a volunteer who will be at the library or the local community center doing that program. Then we also have a position called Community Representative, Community Rep for short. And the Community Rep will be that volunteer who's at the farmer's market, who's at that table, and who's handing out brochures and helping people with questions that they might have. So it's an army of volunteers that really, they are the true heroes in all of this, who are giving their time to make sure that people are aware of what we have to offer at Alzheimer's Association. So as you mentioned this growing epidemic, 7.2 million people right now, over 15 million people projected by 2050. This is an issue that is not going away. And having these volunteers on our side, it makes a huge difference.
And so looking ahead, what's the primary goal for your local Hudson Valley chapter in combating Alzheimer's disease, and what challenges are you anticipating?
So overall, put ourselves out of business.
Great.
That's what we'd like to do.
You never hear that. But.
So yes, I'd like to be out of a job. My father-in-law always used to say, well, what happens if you cure Alzheimer's? You'll be out of a job. What will you do then? I say, if I'm part of the team that cures Alzheimer's, I don't think I'll have a problem finding another job. So that's our ultimate goal, of course. So we go down two different paths. You mentioned research before. You talked a little bit about, you stole my thunder with the...
I'm so sorry.
No, that's good.
We're going to get back into some research.
There's only a few things that I have memorized. So over 1,100 projects, 56 different countries, $430 million that we have throughout the world.
Right.
So this is not just in the United States. This is also all over the world. So that's our first path that we go down, is that research path, and making sure that we are trying to find a cause, trying to find a cure. Now, when I started almost 9 years ago, I would have also said trying to find a way to slow the progression of the disease.
Right.
But amazingly, the progress that we've made in the last 3 years, we now have multiple treatments that can slow the progression of the disease. So this is a huge breakthrough, and it provides hope. Now, it's not a cure. And I want to be very clear about that. And it's not huge. It's 6 to 10 months of additional cognitive function. There are side effects. It's expensive. So it's not perfect. But we want to make sure to give people the option. We want people to have the opportunity to use these treatments, to get these treatments if they want to. So for example, if you have a child who's going to be walking down the aisle, getting married in the next 4 or 5 months, maybe it's worth it to you to take these treatments and to try to get additional time of cognition. So that's the first path that we're going down, is the research path. Mm-hmm. And I can talk a little bit more about that later. Then, of course, the second path is the care and support path, because at the same time as we're trying to get rid of this disease, we are also needing to take care of people living with Alzheimer's, their families, their caregivers, right here in the Hudson Valley.
My story and how I originally got involved was when, in a matter of weeks, I had 3 clients reach out to me. And they said, Rich, unfortunately, a loved one was just diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And our people we were talking to basically told us to Google what things are out there, what resources are out there. And obviously, they were left to leave the doctor's office and go looking around. And they called me because they thought maybe I would know. And that's how I got involved. And I wound up reaching out to you guys and felt like it was such an impact for me to be able to help my clients that I felt like I needed to look more into this. Caregivers often face significant emotional and physical challenges, with many providing unpaid care. And it's estimated that the time that's needed to care for all the loved ones that have been diagnosed is valued at billions of dollars annually and globally. So, what resources and support systems does the Alzheimer's Association offer to alleviate the burdens faced by those caregivers?
So caregivers, being a caregiver is one of the most difficult jobs in the world, right? You talk about a banker or a lawyer, but being a caregiver, I talked about it before, being in that sandwich generation. One of the things that we do is we have what we call time away grants. These are respite grants for caregivers. So caregivers can come to us, they can apply for one of these time away grants, and it can be $1,000 that you can receive, and you can up to $1,000. And you can have, for example, you can have your loved one go to an adult daycare or center for the day, and you can have the day to yourself, because caregiving is a 24/7 job. That's one way that a very tangible way that we're able to help the caregivers that we work with. Obviously, another way is through our support groups. So our support groups are extremely important for caregivers to be able to talk to others who are in the same situation that they're in, to compare notes, to compare challenges that they have, and to compare successes as well. What worked for you, what didn't. And really just to have a shoulder to lean on. We have wonderful support group facilitators. A few are staff, but most are volunteers. So again, talking about this is going to be a running theme through our conversation is these volunteers. And so this is another way that our volunteers, I mentioned before, the community educators, the community representatives, and now we have support group facilitators who are trained, again, to be able to run a support group like this and to be able to help caregivers. And then the last piece is, of course, those care consultations that I mentioned before, being able to work with those caregivers to help them with a care plan, to help them with, okay, this is how to help yourself financially. This is how to doctors are the right ones to go to. All of these different pieces are what our care consultants can do to help the family. And oftentimes it's not just one person, it's oftentimes the caregiver and a family member. It can be multiple people. It can be people from out of state. Oftentimes you'll have, let's say you have one person here in Mamaroneck and you have another person who the sister lives in Georgia. So we bring those people together, bring the family together and talk to them about what their options are so that they can work together as a family to help their loved one.
I believe you mentioned before the need for constant research. And as we all know, research requires funding. Funding is money, right? And
Indeed.
A wise man once told me that if you have time, treasure, or talent, you should be providing those to those who might not have that. And I think if you have time, you should volunteer. If you don't have time but you have treasure, you should donate. If you don't have time or treasure, then you might have talent, and that's where you might want to have some sort of a leadership role. And so one of the things I've always explained to not only my clients, but maybe some small business owners, there's no better way of networking than getting involved in an organization that is near and dear to so many people. And when you're next to somebody and you're talking to them about their own experiences, it's an immediate bond, and you'll always remember that person. And it's a great way of networking. So I always recommend, if you have time, volunteer, and you'll feel great, and it'll come back threefold for you, volunteering. Absolutely. Your chapter here in the Hudson Valley has some pretty impressive events, right? And those events are all to provide the local population just awareness. And so I wanted to ask you if you can share some of those events that you hold here in Westchester County.
Sure, I'd be happy to. We have so many different events going on. So I'll start with all of the small events.
Right. We'll get to the big one later.
Yeah. We'll get to the big one later, exactly. When we talk about events, there's the development side of things, and which we'll get to, but then there's also the care and support side. So we have so many social programs and educational programs. So we have people who will be going to something called Something for Alls, which is an arts type of experience. So an event where they can go and they can do dance, they can do music. We have something called Allswell Social Club for people in early stage Alzheimer's, where they come together and they'll have caregivers in one area, and then they'll have people living with Alzheimer's in another area, and they'll be doing activities. That's something that we just restarted, and that's right here in Rye. And then we have so many different educational pieces all along the way. We just had an incredible diversity, equity, and inclusion event this past about 2 weeks ago. We had an incredible event that was also here in Westchester. We had our diversity, equity, and inclusion vice president from the home office flew in for this event. Just an amazing event talking about Richard Louis' book. Richard Louis is a newscaster for, I believe it's for NBC. We do all of these different types of events. And also last month was very busy. Last month we had an event called the Research Forum. And so that took place at Tappan Hill Manor over in Tarrytown. We had almost 200 people there, and we had several researchers there. We had a researcher from our home office. We have a medical science team we call MedSci. And so we had one of our doctors from MedSci who she came in. We had two other people on the panel talking about wonderful advancements and just an incredible event. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing mini conferences. So stay tuned for that.
Great.
And we want to see as many people as possible in as many areas as possible. So instead of having that one big event, we're going to try to kind of take our show on the road throughout the Hudson Valley, and we're going to be having people coming to all of those. So we have so many different events like that, social programming and educational programming. I mentioned before the libraries and the community rooms and the 10 warning signs of Alzheimer's and things of that nature. Right. Of course, you can always go to our website for all of that information as well, alz.org/Hudson Valley. To the big events that we've talked about. So
yes.
I'll start with the biggest. So our signature event is Walk to End Alzheimer's. So Walk to End Alzheimer's has, I believe it's 662 walks throughout the country. Great. 5 of those walks are here in the Hudson Valley. So we have a walk in Rockland County that takes place at Boulder Stadium, which is called Clover Stadium, but where the New York Boulders play. They're all in October. They're all on different days. So I don't have the dates memorized, but so October 5th is Westchester, which we'll get to in a moment. And then we take the next weekend off for Columbus Day. And then we have the Duchess Ulster Walk is the following Saturday. Then the Rockland Walk is the following Sunday. Then we do Orange Sullivan the following Saturday after that. And then the following Sunday after that, we do Putnam. We have those are our 5 walks. And Westchester is our largest walk by far in terms of people, 1,400 people who attend, and in terms of dollars. So in terms of dollars, Westchester raises more than the other 4 walks combined. Wow. And
as it probably should, being one of the richest counties in the country.
Indeed. Yeah. And it's funny, I'll tell you in a second. So, and Westchester, for the first time ever this past year, Westchester raised over $1 million.
That's great.
Just by itself. And overall for the Hudson Valley, our 5 walks raised over $1.7 million last year for the cause.
Congrats.
So now I mentioned 662 walks nationwide. Financially, in terms of dollars raised, Westchester was number 12 in the country. And it's funny, I was saying it's funny, you mentioned Westchester County, obviously an affluent county, and we're up against cities.
Yeah.
So when you look at who's around us, it's okay. Last year we beat out Houston. Richmond, Virginia was right behind us. We're right near Baltimore. I mean,
it almost seems like there's a little competitiveness when it comes to the walks. Just a little bit.
There might be. That's a little internal thing that we have. We have our top 30 is a big deal to be in the top 30. They reveal the top 30 at our conference that we have, our leadership summit, which happens in January or February every year. And so they reveal the top 30, and where your standing is in the top 30 is a big deal. And right. Westchester, I'm proud to say, in the almost 9 years that I've been here, we have been in the top 30 every single year that I've been here. We started off at number 30, and we've worked our way. It's hard to move up even one because so many of these walks are doing incredible work because they're raising money for the mission, and this is what people are doing out there. Right. People understand that this is an epidemic, and they need to help with the fundraising because I mentioned before, all of our programs and services are free. So how do you do that? We actually get some terrific grants from New York State. So about 40% of our funding comes from 2 grants from New York State, which is really important and really terrific. Right. Obviously concerning these days with everything that's going on with cutbacks, et cetera, et cetera. So we're always concerned for our funding, but the other 60% comes from our fundraising efforts like the walk. And so the walk is not just a fundraising event, it's also a community builder.